Over the years, we've had countless versions of the Mushroom Kingdom, all with vastly varying features. Some are bigger and smaller than others, some are more and less colourful than others, and some are really goddamn scary. Today, we're here to find out which one is the most and least dangerous by taking into account several factors such as how dangerous the enemies are or how brutal the invasion is. And not to sound cliche, but I think the end result will probably surprise most of you. Anyway, annoying ass intro out of the way, let's get on with our list. Alright, before anything, let's go over the criteria I've made to rank each kingdom. It's quite simple, pretty much I'll negate each kingdom points based off everything unsafe I can find about them, and then I'll give them a score out of 10, so I'll just use this game as an example. This game is pretty bare bones, I can only really rate it off of the world, which is not very safe at all. It's infested with countless dangerous monsters and lethal drops that don't seem to be controlled or restricted. I'm saying there's at least one in most levels. There's also not much sign of civilization. There's no toad houses in the overworld or anything, which also means that if you wanted to settle down and live here, you might find some difficulty. And obviously having a house makes life more safe. The only other human-like creatures is like one toad at the end of each castle. And Peach, of course. We can assume they existed at some point because there's brick buildings at the end of each level, but that's not really a lot to go off. So the Mushroom Kingdom in this game, at least the parts we see of it, seem to be dominated by wildlife, which is kind of hostile. They can hurt you, but most of them don't really go out of their way to hurt you, so it's not like you're being hunted or anything. Either way, you shouldn't bring your children here. I didn't really need to do too much research into this game because it's pretty much just a carbon copy of the previous one, just with a more hellish and unforgiving level design. And that will definitely contribute to its safety level, considering that everything dangerous is just going to be turned up a notch. I mean, this game is pretty much just a troll that's designed to torment you. But yeah, everything I said about the previous entry applies here as well, just to a more severe degree. I'll just place it right below the first one. This game isn't even set in the Mushroom Kingdom, it's set in Subcon for subconscious. Nice one, Nintendo. So this game marks the introduction of toad houses, which is pretty big because, as I've already stated, having a place where you can live and settle down is a big boost in safety. This game also marks the introduction of themed worlds, which on the flip side doesn't massively affect the safety. There are dangerous worlds like the volcanic one, but you don't have to go there, so I don't really think that should have any effect on anything. The toad houses alone are enough to put this one tier above the first two games. The Mushroom Kingdom isn't in this game. Instead, it takes place in Dinosaur Land because everyone is on vacation. Yet again, this is another game not taking place in the Mushroom Kingdom. Instead, it takes place in Sarasa Land, which is ruled by Daisy instead of Peach. Yet another entry that doesn't take place in the Mushroom Kingdom. Yeah, I'm sensing a theme here. I feel like a lot of the older games might have tried to take on different locations before setting on the Mushroom Kingdom as the place to represent the Mario series. For this game, it takes place in Mario Land. Wait, what? So yeah, apparently Mario just has his own island with its own castle that's just never brought up again. So why the fuck is he living in this shitty little shack in every other game? You know what, I get sidetracked too much. Before ranking this one, I want to clear up the plot of this game. While researching this entry, I found lots of contradictory theories and statements about how much of this game is actually set in the Mushroom Kingdom. So I'm just going to apply my own logic here. If you look to your left when entering the castle, you'll see a toad, and when speaking to him, he'll tell you that Bowser created these worlds through the magic of the Power Stars. To me, the idea that these worlds only exist inside the paintings, or in another dimension that you just use the paintings to get to, makes more sense than Bowser just having physically manifested these worlds into existence. But then again, magic is magic, and it probably just comes down to which idea you prefer, considering the game never explains it. So in other words, the only part I'm considering the Mushroom Kingdom is Peach's castle. And I know there's going to be some intuitive thinkers out there arguing, well, these paintings still exist within the Mushroom Kingdom, therefore there's a means to go to these worlds, which must be pretty dangerous. Well, yeah, but it's an active decision to jump into these paintings, and it's pretty easy not to do that. So if you were to ever accidentally enter one of these worlds, then you probably deserve to be there. Now, with all that being took into account, I think it's fairly reasonable to deem this kingdom as pretty safe. Sure, during the events of the games, the Toads are left without a leader, but that's probably the best thing that could happen to them, because Peach was probably not doing that much for them anyway. It's mostly Mario that provides for this kingdom, so I know I haven't actually explicitly said anything about this kingdom, so I think it should just go without saying that there's nothing dangerous in this kingdom. There's no enemies or Goombas or bottomless pits, so I'm saying this is the best so far. While this is mostly the exact same game as the original, I am going to put it ever so slightly above, purely because of the fact that in this game there's 4 competent people on standby that are there to guard the Mushroom Kingdom instead of just 1. This game is set in Isle Delfino, which is, unironically, the safest location we've had so far by a long shot. This place only fell into anarchy when these dickheads arrived. Okay, it's mostly Bowser's fault, but I'm not ignoring how much carnage Peach brings. So I've just gone ahead and ranked all these games together because, well,
DS was good, but it got just as bad as
Mario Bros. U stands for underwhelming.
How do I rank 6 of the same goddamn film?
Yeah, I think you get it. These games are way too similar to rank individually. The structure of these games is almost identical, but wait a sec, they have to be new. Let's swap World 3 and 4 around and also make people not have to do one of them. I'm gonna be faithful to my one and only in this explanation. The game usually follows the structure of a grass world, a desert world, a snow world, a beach world, a jungle world, a rock world, a cloud world, a lava world, and a star world. The obvious trend is as the worlds progress, so does the danger level. The last 3 are just completely inhabitable. World 5 and 6 are pretty hazardous. World 4 is the exception, being one of the tamer ones. World 2 and 3 are harsh conditions but not massively dangerous, and World 1 is sunshine and rainbows. This might be a pretty inaccurate description of the worlds in this game because they all have a fairly equal amount of enemies, although I'll still stand by the fact that the enemies probably get more deadly as the worlds progress. Another key difference separating the Mushroom Kingdom in these games from the Mushroom Kingdom in other 2D games is that there are signs of civilization throughout most worlds with the Toad houses, even World 7, although I think that's just Mario logic. We cannot live in the clouds. And there's no Toad houses in World 8 or 9 for obvious reasons. These ones don't count, that's just the game taking pity because you suck. Now obviously it wouldn't be the Mushroom Kingdom without bottomless pits, those still do exist, but as a whole, I think this Mushroom Kingdom is surpassing most others, at least the 2D games anyway. I think the bottomless pits in this game are less frequent than the other 2D games, leaving the enemies as a bigger threat. And while a lot of them are dangerous, I think we as humans could take quite a few of these, like Goombas or Cheeps or Koopas. And if you're one of these Toads living in these Toad houses, you are good. The castle is always the main target for Bowser in these games, so you're going to be relatively unbothered when living in one of these. So I'm going to put these games just below Super Mario Bros. 3, just because the invasions seem a little bit more hectic. Hey, we've got a pretty decent streak going here. Now let's see what we have next. Hopefully it'll at least live up to the previous. So I doubt I really have to justify this choice at all, but I will anyway. We see this kingdom for like 5 seconds before we get, without a doubt, the most brutal Bowser invasion we've ever gotten, and probably ever will get. We see Toads meet God in some of the most inhumane ways possible, all in the first 5 minutes of this game, and it just gets brushed off. And even though this is a new level of anarchy we've seen in Mario, no doubt, the kingdom should still most definitely have a better defense against this by now. Like, Peach, look at your fucking guards. And the game builds one last sick joke by dangling the lives of these Toads before your eyes while you're rendered useless, unable to do anything, and then teaches you the ability that could have saved their lives 5 minutes later. Holy shit, they didn't even sugarcoat it at all. I was considering looking at this kingdom in its undemolished state, but fuck that. I don't see a world where this goes any higher than bottom tier. Okay, I don't know why the Galaxy games are so obsessed with wrecking the Mushroom Kingdom and its residents, but we see even less of it in this game, probably because the game cursed us with a two-dimensional perspective during this entire intro segment, so we barely see any of it. All we actually see is a bit of terrain, a few houses, Peach's castle, and Bowser fucking everything up, so it's hardly an adequate amount to rate its safety. I'm just gonna put this game one above the original Super Mario Galaxy purely off the basis that this invasion is marginally less hectic than the first game. This is going to be a pretty easy one to rank, seeing as there's not much more I can say about it that I haven't said about previous entries. This game is pretty much a 3D version of the new Soup games, thus most things I've said there applies here as well. This entry might as well just extend off of that one. What I will say is that the levels in this game differentiate from each other a lot more, which is just a result of this game being 3D and therefore allowing for much more depth to the levels. What that means is that there's a bigger spectrum of safety in this game because the levels are so diverse. In other words, the safest levels are safer and the most dangerous ones are more dangerous. I guess I'd put this game slightly above the new Soup games because the dangerous areas don't really matter as long as you don't go there. I mean, we have dangerous areas on Earth, we don't have to be there. I also think that this game's Mushroom Kingdom might be more advanced considering that there's much more of a civilization. There's still toad houses, but there's also just toads chilling in levels and much more infrastructure wherever you go, showing that not everywhere is necessarily dominated by wildlife. You'll probably be fine here. This game somehow simultaneously shows the least of the Mushroom Kingdom, while also spending the most time in the Mushroom Kingdom. The game's plot focuses around Peach's castle and rebuilding it, which is not good because that's literally all we get to see. And I mean that. In Mario 64, it was only Peach's castle, but you also got to explore outside the castle grounds, and there was quite a lot of terrain and just stuff to explore. In this game, you get Peach's castle and a field.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa!
So this one really did stump me, and I ended up coming to the conclusion that this game doesn't even attempt to show anything other than Peach's castle, which is something that can't be said for any other game so far. So I'm kind of forced to put this in the has 2 seconds of screen time tier, because otherwise I'd have to put it in the completely safe tier, and that just doesn't sit right with me because there's not enough content here to really definitively say that. Alright, so this is the first game that I literally cannot rank because we see like 4 seconds of the Mushroom Kingdom in this game, and nothing of notice happens in that time. We don't get any brutal invasion like in the Galaxy games, it's just Bowser coming out of pipe and kidnapping. Look, nothing happens. It might be pretty easy to forget, but this game isn't set in the Mushroom Kingdom, it's set in the Sprixie Kingdom. And this is a similar case to 3D World. We only get one shot of this kingdom, and ironically, it's the exact same path shown in 3D World. It's visible for like 2 seconds in the intro cutscene. Super Mario Run is a unique one because there isn't a definitive Mushroom Kingdom in this game, except you get to make it yourself, to an extent. One thing you can't change about this kingdom, however, is the serenity. The invasion might seem pretty hectic, but I think it's way less of a factor in this game because the game is about rebuilding the Mushroom Kingdom. To be honest, the kingdom builder mode of this game is such a big factor and allows the kingdom to be so developed that I'm not even going to take into account the actual levels because everything you could ever want and need is right here anyway. I mean, there's not much I could get from the levels anyway. I'm still gonna put it just below the top tier because it still gets bombed in the invasion, but it's still pretty much completely safe. So in this game, the Mushroom Kingdom is actually pretty segregated from the rest of the game's plot, which is probably good for its score because that also means it's separated from most of the game's bullshit. The only plot relevance that it has is the invasion at the beginning, which is pretty brief and casual, being on the shorter side for 3D Mario games. All we really see is Mario getting punted. The next time we see the kingdom is in the post-game, and for the most part it's a pretty hazard-free zone. The only real dangers are these Goombas that move at a snail pace, so I think you're gonna be fine. And there we have it. That is every single mainline game. And now to announce the winner that, dare I say, absolutely nobody expected, probably partly because they forgot the game existed. Super Mario 64 DS specifically is our winner for the safest version of the Mushroom Kingdom. And this might be a slightly controversial choice depending on who you are. There's a world where both 64DS and the original 64 are on par with each other, but to me, I just can't ignore the fact that in the DS version, the manpower of the kingdom is quadrupled, so I think it is well deserving of this, and I like underdog wins anyway. It also might be a bit of a controversial one because of that whole section about what you consider the Mushroom Kingdom, and whether you consider the paintings as part of that, but I don't want to go back into all of that. Super Mario 64 DS is our winner, fair and square. And as for our loser, need I even say, it's Super Mario Galaxy.